Welcome to the Arena Decklist Podcast. I'm Jerry Thompson, joined by Brian Gottlieb, and there's no shortage of things to talk about. There is literally Hogaak in Pioneer, and there is...
I'm not signing off on that.
I'm being as inflammatory as possible at the top of the show on purpose. And apparently, you have informed me that there is also literally Hogaak in Standard as well at this Arena Championship 3.
Well, I have seen people be pretty excited about this Jeskai Dragons list. Maybe not as excited as they are about Boros 7 or 8 Loxodons. But I just kind of feel like we've crossed this like critical threshold where you just have to say whatever your opinion is in the staunchest hyperbole possible. Otherwise, it's just rendered completely meaningless.
Yeah.
And that's probably been true for a while, but it feels very intense when it comes to these two decks because they both look good, like very good to me. But they've both been called just preposterous. Like I've seen the standard deck called Splinter Twin, which I don't really understand. And then I've seen this Pioneer deck called Hogaak, which I guess the creatures have Convoke. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where like someone says it facetiously.
You're like, you're like trying to draw like the straight line comparison. Like, why would they say that? But clearly that's not what's going on here. You know,
I think it like in part is though, like it's informing why they chose to call it that particular deck, right? Otherwise you could have said, oh, this is Eldrazi Winter all over again. Or this is, whatever broken deck you want to point to.
Yeah, I guess the similarity of like kind of flooding the board and is hard to deal with or whatever. But like, I think it is just the last iteration of this thing was so busted that it had to get banned, right? Like Hogaak happened in more recent memory than Eldrazi.
Yeah,
but
maybe that's
I don't know.
true.
I kind of think it's a matter of in order to get through, to like cut through the conversation, you just have to say the most inflammatory thing possible.
And look, I'm a fan of saying inflammatory stuff. Like I promise I get it and I know what you're doing here. So yeah, go for it. It's fine. There's no penalty for like saying things in hyperbole. Maybe like long-term societal penalty. I don't think you as a person, like, I don't think these people ever feel the consequences of doing so. That's what it comes down to. It's like there's no punishment for just like saying the most asinine thing possible and then having to walk it back like a month later.
Yeah, that's probably.
Or you don't even walk it back. You just say it and then it's just there.
But I take the mental note for whatever that's worth. And
that's good.
Then I'm like, I'm just not going to take this person seriously ever again,
Sure. And that was something I had to do in like magic content starting out. It was very necessary to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just a lot of bad information out there. I mean, and there still is. It's just now there's just so much information. Like maybe it's harder to find actual good information than bad information.
Well, all of that fun, exciting stuff aside, I am going to do something different. I think I would rather just talk about Modern, despite the fact that the Pioneer RCs are actually coming up. Is that okay? Is that reasonable?
Jerry, I am but a passenger on your wizarding ship, and wherever you would like to take me, I will happily voyage with you. Because as I'm sure you can predict, I was mostly busy with other things. Actually very busy this week with other things. And I don't really know what's going on. I see like the Twitter discourse, and that's pretty much the extent of it. So I think checking in on Modern is completely fine as far as I'm concerned.
It seems like odd timing, but I do think that next couple of weeks we can talk about like results of things and how those events ended up playing out and whether or not the literally Hogaak folks were remotely correct or not.
Yeah, because we're going to have the RCQ next week, right? In Dallas at DreamHack. Look how many things I know about the current state of competitive Magic.
Yeah, there you go. So we can do that instead. And I found this Modern League that looked fairly enticing. I also have a bunch of other tabs open from like challenges, and there's like a Pioneer qualifier and blah, blah, blah. Obviously like lots of stuff happening. And it was like, this is by far the most interesting thing. So
that's what I want to do then.
And that's obviously just based on my opinion, but my opinion is clearly the most important here. So,
Yes.
anyway, fun little detour into Modern. We're going to take a look at this deck dump, and you have a hard time cap of about 2 hours. So,
Yeah.
we've got to go a little bit faster than we did last week, I think.
Probably. I do think we'd crack the 2 hour mark, and these modern lists tend to be a little bit deeper than the Pioneer ones.
Yeah.
So, really, what we need are some decks we can completely skip over, and I have a feeling we will not be disappointed.
Okay. Well, the first one is Mono Blue Merfolk by Fnatic. 20 land, 4 Aether Vial, 3 Dismember, 3 Force Negation. I don't want to talk about this too much, except for the fact that we did kind of like talk about Merfolk a little bit a while ago, where it was just like a matter of time before it won a bigger event.
Yeah, that's the way Merfolk operates.
Yeah, and I don't know, is this it? Is it creeping in?
These cards are all fine. This deck looks fine. If this won an event, I'd say fine. That's just the state of Merfolk always. Like, it's in that range all the time. I don't see anything particularly different or exciting about this version of Merfolk or where Merfolk is right now.
So Subtlety main deck, 3 copies of Force Negation. Is there a reason to not play a Seagate Restoration?
I well, given some of the other stuff I see in this mana base, like the Duranath Ruins, I don't know how standard that is at this point. That's a bit surprising. If you asked me to choose, I would probably choose Seagate Restoration over the Duranath Ruins. I'll say that.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess Draenith Ruins plays pretty well with Aether Vial, so
Sure.
I'm willing to let that one slide a little bit. But I don't know. You have 6 pitch cards. Another Subtlety in the sideboard. So it's like, maybe you want the extra blue card. Whatever. That's all. That's all I want to say.
You're just flirting with a lot of danger when you have 20 lands, 5 of them are tapping for colorless. Like, I know you're an Aether Vial deck, but you're not always an Aether Vial deck. Unless your plan is just like, I'm mulliganing to Aether Vial every single time, and that is the game we're playing.
Yeah. The second deck is kind of the banger of the league. There are a few bangers. This one is among them. This is from Whoops. This is
I'm already excited.
Yeah, 60 card, Bant midrange, Icefang Coatl, some Abundant Growth to combo with Teferi Time Ravelers. Abundant Growth also like fixing your snow mana base to enable you to play counterspell and whatnot. 3 copies of Force Negation, 2 Eternal Witness, 3 copies of Cosmic Rebirth. This is a card from Aftermath, 1G dub, instant. Choose target permanent card in your graveyard. If it has mana value 3 or less, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put it into the battlefield, put it into your hand, you gain 3 life. This does not exile itself, so you get a bunch of like looping situations. Miser's copy of Ephemerate to kind of like go off with Eternal Witness and stuff. This is just like Omnath without the Omnaths, but this weirdo Eternal Witness engine also, which is awesome to me.
Yep, Eternal Witness value engine, very much what we talked about when we saw Cosmic Rebirth. I also love the Icefang Coatl Cosmic Rebirth interaction where you just like get a kill spell out of nowhere off your Cosmic Rebirth. Like,
gain 3 life, draw a card.
Yeah, you come out really ahead in those scenarios where you're playing against like a fair deck. Not that you're often doing that in Modern, but if you get to, you're going to feel really, really excited about that. And then just like, I think the type of loops you can set up are enough to carry you over the finish line here. I think, taking a bunch of turns with Time Warp, if that's what you have to do, just continually keeping your opponent off the battlefield with these resources you're able to generate. It looks like it's enough to me. Certainly you're going to have some matchup holes with a deck like this. I think that is just, kind of what you sign up for. But the sideboard options have gotten so good in Modern that I feel like you may not be able to beat everything, but you certainly have agency over what you will lose to. You always have that choice. So if you know the metagame well enough, putting together a deck like this makes a lot of sense.
I actually like the random Time Warp too.
Me too.
It is just like a huge power spike in a deck with a ton of recursion, and there was a period of maybe a couple months where I was working on these decks kept popping up that were like Ren and 6 sort of control-y. Like some of them were Omnath decks, but some of them were just like straight up teamer decks too, and they would just put in a couple Time Warps because Ren and 6 Uh, and then like you cast a couple time warps, suddenly you have time warp with retrace or whatever, and it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, you just win the game out of nowhere, basically.
Yep.
And it has a lot of the same feel here, and it's just one copy, so it's not necessarily going to like clog up your hand. You also have things like force negation to pitch it or whatever. It seems like pretty low opportunity cost to actually get it into your deck, and then potentially creates like this huge power spike at some point. So cool.
I will say too, this very much looks like it could just be a red and 6 deck if it wanted to. Like it's not hard to expand to that point and sort of change what you focus on. And
It could, but I like the fact that it has just become a more simplistic version.
no, I agree with you. I this looks very nice to me, but there's a lot of paths for doing this type of stuff right now in
Yes.
modern, which is exciting.
Yeah, and it's not like, Cosmic Rebirth is bad with Ren and 6 or whatever either. Just getting more powerful permanents to return is cool. But Rebirth to Fairy, I don't know if that was a thing that we actually talked about.
No, I don't feel like it was, and probably should have been. I mean, that's maybe the most powerful 3-mana permanent you can return at instant speed in the entire game. Like you can even mess stuff up, like interact on the stack with Teferi and red scenarios, right? Like if I'm understanding that correctly, you can just shut spells down in some spots. So pretty cool.
Yeah, and there are just a lot of matchups that are about whether or not you're able to keep a Teferi in play. Think about the various Cascade matchups or whatever, and this just gives you more redundancy, more copies of ways to do that. And it definitely makes me feel like those sorts of matchups are not as bad as they may seem at first glance, especially given like counterspell, force negation type of stuff lurking in the deck list too. So I like this deck a lot.
Some sneaky counterplay here, I think.
Yeah, definitely agree. All right, next one, CMOS 21 mono red, Obosh weird stuff. So 20 lands, a bunch of creature lands and Rabbit Ruins, Flame Slash, Lightning Bolt, Spikefield Hazard, Blood Moon, Fable, assorted creatures, Relic Progenitus. Nothing too fancy.
Relic of Progenitus main? That's a feature of these decks now?
That's been kind of standard since like the OG versions of this deck.
Okay. I feel like
I think
in a moment.
Yeah, I think it might have fallen out of favor for a little bit. Now maybe making a comeback.
Yeah, it's hard for me to comment on decks like I just don't get excited by decks like this anymore. Like I think they have been tested. They've proven to be a step behind. So you have to kind of show me something new if I'm going to get up in arms about this. And I don't really see much new here.
What if I were to tell you that this is the modern equivalent of Big Red?
Yeah, that means I'm excited for like I see the list and I go, ooh, and then I play it and I go, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly my feeling on this deck. Like, oh, neat idea. And then if I had to play a tournament with this, I would probably set myself on fire. So,
all right, fine. Word in Affinity. This one does have Seagate Restoration, oddly enough. Memnite, some Ornithopters, some Urzas, Emerys, Thought Monitors, Force of Negation. A lot of them, 4 copies. That's kind of weird. I was looking for the is this the version with the 3 mana draw 4 cards card? But no, this
is like getting counter magic into my affinity deck. That's the goal here.
Yeah, I'm kind of down with this. I don't know. 4 Thoughtcast, 4 Thought Monitor, basically doing the legacy thing, albeit at a much slower, not as good rate. But yeah, Force Negation, including Seagate Restoration for more blue cards to pitch. I do like that. That's smart.
You have 1 copy of Subtlety in the sideboard. I feel like if you're going to go as far as 4 Seagate Restorations, maybe you can get away with the 2nd copy or even a 3rd copy. That seems all fine to me. But I get the goals here. And for the right metagame, I think these goals could be pretty good. Like if you have to just kind of deal with one big threat out of your opponent, have a decent clock, this will do that very effectively.
So not literally Hogaak is what you're saying.
Probably not Hogaak, no.
Unfortunate, because I think that's kind of the bar.
Right. It has to be at least Hogaak before we consider it.
Yeah, okay. Squiggy 686. This is another I don't want to say it's a banger, but it did get me kind of excited. This is just humans. So 1-drops are Champion of the Parish, Esper Sentinel, Ether Vial, Noble Hierarch. pretty
We've gotten
normal.
some fresh humans recently.
Yeah, Adeline has completely supplanted Mantis Rider as the 3-drop of choice, which I absolutely love because
Mm-hmm.
I was not a big Mantis Rider fan. Got some Unsettled Mariners in the 2 slot. I have tried this card a few times, and it seemed like a card that was more frustrating in multiples. But like
Okay.
the first copy, the individual copy, didn't really do very much and was just a grizzly bear. But now we have things like Copper Coat Vanguard, another Aftermath card, 1 dub, 2/2. Human soldier, each other human you control gets +1/+0 and has ward 1, so it gives
Yeah,
you
those combining together. That's cool.
yeah, combines with the other thing and is like a lord for the thing that you want it most, which is increasing your clock. So I think that this card is definitely more impactful than Unsettled Mariner. And then we
Mm-hmm.
have 3 copies of Jarina, Dauntless General, white black 2/2 legendary creature human soldier. When this enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard, sacrifice this humans you control, gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So that, again, like that kind of mopey 2/2 body, but
But the effect
so
feels like
much
enough.
value.
Yeah.
The sweeper protection is just something that you wanted out of the sideboard anyway in a lot of instances, and then you just get like the incidental graveyard hate tacked on there. You have like Ether Vial tricks you can potentially play with this too. So
Yep.
these things are helping a lot, and specifically the Vanguard and Jarina are both cards that help out with your Fury problem by quite a lot.
Yeah, that's the big thing this deck has been fighting against in recent. We ought to be looking at like a year, right? Can I say recent years now when we talk
Yeah,
about Fury
no,
problems?
absolutely.
Yeah, it's been the thing holding this deck down, and I think just having an answer to it is not enough. You need to start compiling a critical mass of answers, and a critical mass of answers that aren't just focused on solving that problem, which these cards are very much doing. They're just adding good utility to the deck. I am positive it'll be uh there'll be another chance for humans. They will return to the meta game someday. There's just too many humans in Magic, and we keep making more and more humans. They will combine in such a fashion that they are able to win at some point. I don't
Yeah,
think that's a controversial claim. And then they'll be literally Hogaak.
oh, okay. We've gotten to a point where the meddling mages live in the sideboard because we have better, more disruptive 2-drops to play in the main deck, which is not something I ever thought that I would see, given that we had to play Kitesail Freebooter for so long because there was
Right.
not another good like disruptive 2-drop we could play.
How much do you think this deck is supposed to branch out from four ofs? Like, obviously, there's several legends in the deck, and it does cross my mind that are you just supposed to play more of a sprinkling of some of these effects, like just have more one ofs and be like, well, if I draw this in a matchup, I just added 10% to my game,
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think like these cards are so impactful. A card like Meddling Mage, like a one of Meddling Mage in my deck, is pretty appealing to me. Like
I
I'm
agree with
sure I
you.
will find a target for it, and if I just spike it in some matchups, I'm miles ahead. So
Yeah, and I mean, there are just like a lot of matchups where drawing the second meddling mage is not that good too.
mm-hmm.
So I do like the idea of just like, like how bad is the miser's meddling mage? It's like the main deck has 2 copies of Phantasmal Image. I'm not sure how much you actually need that effect. Because yeah, you can't copy the legendary stuff, and there's only
It
2
does combine
copies of.
very well with Coppercore Vanguard, right? Like I think that's like the big pickup for that card.
Yeah, yes and no. I don't know. Um, I don't know. Like, yeah,
I
you
guess
get
the
like,
image itself is still very targetable, right? Like you just let the
yeah,
thing die.
yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, I don't know about that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
fair
like
enough.
certainly doubling up on your Lord, specifically Thalia's Lieutenant, is like one of the power spikes of the deck. But like, really, there's not that many things that you actually want to copy. So
Well, again, a lot of legendaries. So
yeah. Anyway, I'm excited about any and all returns of humans, except for when humans is the deck to beat in modern.
right.
Oh, we're just getting all the bangers out of the way. Okay, this one is from Winkersome. A lot of one ofs, but 60 cards. So this is a Kethis the Hidden Hand deck that is also an Emery Grinding Station Mox Amber deck. Uh, I don't really know how to describe the rest of this deck.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Urza Saga, of course, playing a role. Mox Amber, but there's like, one Psy, one Oswald Fiddlebender, one Reality Chip, one Tameshi, one Skrelv, one Oath of Nissa.
I mean, this just feels like the idea of, oh, if I have some of these one-ups and I get them in various spots, I'll be very happy about it.
Right, right.
Um, so kind of leaning into our previous deck discussion, this deck looks very, very cool. I actually wanted to say when we were talking about the Affinity deck, really feels like Modern could just take back Mox Opal at this point. I know that's like probably a controversial statement and maybe people are
Yeah.
happier with that gone, but it's just like, I don't know. I kind of think there's a lot of cards that we have, a lot of cards and strategies that we have arbitrarily pushed out of Modern where there's really no need to. Like if heavy artifact decks were a thing, then the metagame would certainly account for them and they would be good sometimes. And I don't think they're problematic or really like restrict gameplay all that much. Then you see a deck like this, and I'm like, well, shit, if this was like a 4 Mox Amber, 4 Mox Opal deck,
I would love that. Yeah.
yeah, that would maybe be something. Like that's actually what I'm more scared of than just Mox Opal decks is Mox Amber plus Mox Opal decks. And
Yeah.
then I think things can get out of control pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I worry about anything that really fundamentally breaks like action economy type of stuff in Modern, but all of that kind of went out the window when
The
they
spells became
made
free.
huh
The spells became free.
yeah, when they printed all the pitch elementals
Yeah,
specifically. It's just
I
like,
agree.
well, every deck is like Fury or Solitude, and like even the random blue decks are like, I guess we subtlety decks now or force negation decks. It's just like everyone is kind of doing this, and we don't see many artifact decks, and the ones that we do see are like, oh, that's cute, nice little tier 3 deck or whatever. So yeah, I mean, maybe Mox Opal is not the worst thing to reintroduce to the format at this point, but there's always the risk that, oh yeah, maybe we're overlooking some other like busted thing.
It's certainly possible. I mean, the card is sort of messed up, but I just feel like something else messed up can then challenge the messed up thing. Like it's just kind of like Legacy at this point, where
Yeah,
things have to be actually factually broken before they really matter all that much. Otherwise, they're just shaping something like uh, I guess like Grinding Station is a good example. Like just things like Breach Grinding Station are kind of messed up, but like it's ebbing and flowing as part of the metagame because there's other messed up things you can do and there's good responses to everything and action economy doesn't really matter all that much anymore and all that stuff combines to be like, well, actually you've created the sandbox where just everything can exist and would be completely fine
yeah, and I do think that,
except Hogaak.
of course, yeah. Well, I I was gonna say that, especially in the case of Modern, artifacts are among the easiest things to kind of like hard target and hate out.
Yeah, there's very good hate spells for sure.
So even if the best deck in a vacuum in Modern were an artifact deck, like you said, it would be self-correcting, and like, is that the best place to be? Maybe not, but whatever.
I think it's fine. I don't think it just is all that differentiated from like a bunch of the other places we've been. Like I'd much rather see like tight artifact decks than on meth elemental stuff. Like just absolutely flooding battlefields and doing absurd turns. Like
Yeah.
that's the format I would prefer. So
All right. Another banger alert. We have 12 invasions, including which is the XGG one. Oh, it's not even in here. Wait, what?
no, it's not.
Wow. Okay. Invasion of Alara, which is the Wooburg one. Invasion of
Yeah.
Amaket, which is the blue black one that becomes the body double. Invasion of Urgamon, which is the rummage, make a treasure. I don't even. Oh, the backside is random thing that like lets you discard a card, get another invasion, right? But this deck has 3 copies of Vampire Hexmage as well. But the rest of it is just like a domain zoo deck. Territorial Kavu, Scion of Draco, Leyline Binding, Tribal Flames, 3 Ren and 6, 4 copies of Fury, and 22 land.
Dude, I used to love garbage like this in like old extended, where you just slap in some weird combo into
This is
your
the
tribal
hottest
zoo
of
deck.
garbage. I love it.
Yeah, like I don't know. I remember building like tribal zoo decks with like Blood Moon, Bloodbraid Elf at the top end, and just like weird stuff that you can slot in because your package is like aggressive and dangerous. And I feel like I also built like Splinter Twin Tribal Zoo at some point, and it was like, okay, you won a bunch of games, it was fine. Like Landfall Tribal Zoo was a comp like Scape Shift, and you just popped in for damage out of nowhere. I've done that stuff. So anytime you add some nonsense to Zoo, I'm pretty happy about it.
Did you ever play
And
the very horrible Congregation at Dawn zoo deck that I played?
uh maybe. Maybe. I certainly remember playing against it.
Okay.
I don't know if I ever played with it.
Well, I'm sure if you played against it, you won those games. So.
Just got that easy W. Yeah,
You're
that's
welcome. I blame that on Kyle Bogamus, by the way.
okay. It's always good to be able to blame your mistakes on someone else.
Well, me choosing to play the deck, that's on me. But as far as him having the enticing, awful like zoo plus pile of nonsense, that's on him. You know.
Yep. I love a good zoo plus nonsense. This maybe takes the science too far, but I still respect the effort and the goals here.
Yeah, I was expecting the XGG tutor for Vampire Hexmage make an 8/8 kind of thing, you know, but
Yeah, it seems fine.
it's like, no, we'll just natty draw the Hexmage and we have 12 battles, so chances are we're gonna have one of these anyway.
It feels like this Ergamon one would be better suited as that card for sure, right?
Well,
Like,
you see, Ergamon ramps to Alara, and Alara has a bunch of cards in like Scion of Draco, Fury, and Leyline Binding that it doesn't hit.
yeah,
So your odds of hitting a Hexmage are pretty damn good, actually.
yeah,
I don't know.
okay, okay. I guess I get it.
It's nonsense, right? But whatever.
It's good nonsense though.
Yeah. Okay. Spangle, a banger but not a banger. Yawgmoth now with 4 Arboreal Grazer, 4 Golgari Rod Farm. Bryan has Modern gone too far?
Never. When the answer is Arboreal Grazer, you're exactly where you need to be, and effort approved. I like this. I think if you were to currently search through the shelves behind me, there are 2 modern decks that are still put together and built. One is Yawgmoth, one is Amulet Titan, and now I can just shuffle them together and be ready for the metagame.
I actually don't hate this.
I guess I wish there was. Maybe it's just fine. Maybe it is just fine.
Like,
I guess it's so we're replacing the Noble Hierarch thing in this instance, right?
Yeah. And you have 4 copies of Colony Garden too, which
you block way better.
And you have more food for Yawgmoth and Grist.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you can Eldritch Evo the Grazer into a Grist. Like, is that worth having? I mean,
it's okay. It's okay. I mean, like, where a lot of what you're trying to do is just like make disposable stuff. I guess also to the Noble Hierarch doesn't effectively add to your Court of Calling count, so you get no real downside there.
Yeah. I like that.
You're blocking well. It really does seem fine to me. I don't hate it at all.
Man, I kind of like this. I think that this might be sort of genius.
We shall see. We shall see if the Grazer takes its place atop the metagame once more.
All right. Modi Sapirus. 4 copies of Surge of Salvation in blue white hammer, some Seachrome Coasts, Lavinia in the sideboard, no Spell Pierce or anything. Won't need because we have 4 Surge of Salvation.
It was interesting. Where your deck is effectively targeted by some things, you just go, okay, not anymore. And I think metagame call, this could be completely correct.
Yeah. This doesn't look that bad to me either.
Clean, simple, find the most efficient answer. Sometimes that's all a deck needs. It's just the most streamlined, efficient answer.
Next deck from Capsula 1 is another hammer deck. This one mono white, 3 Mana Tide, 3 Surge of Salvation. How different are these decks? The blue splash one has the chippy, 2 Giver of Runes in each deck, a core outfitter instead of the chippy in the other one. They're pretty similar, honestly.
Yeah, they're very close. Just a slightly larger disruptive / counter suite. I do love Mana Tithe. I think it's often nonsense, especially in a deck like this where you don't have a ton of mana inefficiency. But I want it to be better than it actually is.
Yeah.
So I applaud the effort.
And sometimes, you like get home from work or whatever, or you wake up on the weekends and you just feel like mana tithing some people,
Yeah, I've been there.
I've seen it time and time again in Cedric Phillips. It's like he's thinking about what to play in a league, and it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna mana tithe some people. I can just tell. That's just where you are right now.
We all need that mental reset that comes with a really good mana tithe, and then we mentally delete all those times where we just die with a handful of mana tithes.
Oh,
those
100%.
are not important to us.
100%. Okay, next deck, Willie Blake, another mono red deck. This one, no Obosh, so we have things like Maze Mind Tome and Shatter Skull Smashing in the mana base. Big fan of that. This one is pretty straightforward, just like all 4 ofs, up to and including the sideboard. 4 Stone Brain, 4 Pyrite Spellbomb. This one also main decking Relic of Progenitus. So see, told you.
Oh, okay. I guess that's the thing. I'm just excited to see shenanigans in the sideboard.
Yeah.
Don't see that one all that much these days.
This deck is kind of weird.
I just can't
still.
see ever playing this deck. Like, I don't know why you do this to yourself.
I like all the cards so much, but it's like if this was a Pioneer deck, I'd be way more on board,
Yep. Sounds correct.
All right. Xenowan with Ye Old 0 Land Charbelcher.
This is also always on my list, right next to Merfolk, I guess, as a deck that can just win a tournament out of nowhere, and I'll just be like, makes sense.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like too much fancy stuff. Oh, Reckless Handling.
Searching. Hold on. Searching.
1R sorcery. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle, then discard a card at random. If an artifact was discarded this way, this deals 2 damage each opponent. So got like the little gamble for Charbelcher now. So all right.
Yeah. That's fine. I think that is very reasonable and probably like gets you a point. I'm gonna say it's a 0.37 boost in win percentage. So Charbelcher slowly moving up the ranks.
Yeah. Sweet Home, bunch of 4-ofs for the most part. Dragon Razor's Channeler, Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, 4 copies of Goblin and Narcomancer. This is the red-green Goblin Electromancer, sort of. Reduces red and green cards. 4 Underworld Breach, 4 Mishra's Bauble, 4 Desperate Ritual, 4 Poetic Ritual, 4 Manamorphose, Abundant Harvest, 2 Grape Shots, some Reckless Impulses, and Ren's Resolves. I don't know if we've talked about this before on the cast. I saw this list popping up like a little bit at various times, and I do like this a lot.
I actually really like this. I think it's like exactly my kind of stupid. There's just enough chance of like winning a game fair off your turn 1 Ragavan, turn 1 Dragon Rage Channeler nonsense, which I think you just like actually factually always run out in this deck because you want it to die and you're fine with that, and then you get to slam your Narcomancer and have your actual threat come down, but they can't afford to ignore it either, right? Like it's not something they can just let sit there, and I think that's exactly what you want out of this turn 1 play, and then you just combo some people, and yeah, I think this is probably good enough in a lot of instances. I don't know what your Goldfish turn looks like. I think you're probably like 5 is my guess. It's probably very hard to do this effectively on 4.
Well, if somehow your opponent is not interacting, I can see pretty easy turn 3s if you just play an Archomancer on 2 and untap with it. And there's also a world where you can play like a Narcomancer on 3, then a Ritual, then a Breach, and like go off from there, right?
Yeah, maybe. I
It requires a lot of stuff for sure.
think you need a lot to go right in those scenarios.
Yeah, probably like DRC on 1 to
Yep,
start.
yep. That would help for sure. Yeah, I think you just if you juice the graveyard a little bit, you could end up there. But that's why it just feels like it needs like a couple pieces to come together. I don't think you're ever like raw one piecing, so that's why 4 or 5 seems more realistic to me.
Yeah,
But
5 is Breach a Narcomancer out of the graveyard, go off from there, right?
yep, yep, and that's kind of simple mode at that point. Like I think that is very very easy to set up. So you're just asking a lot of questions across multiple turns though, which is like if you see viable turn 3 wins, that means they need to interact on turns 1 and 2. Again, turn 1 Ragavan, incredible at forcing interaction. So if you're interacting on every single turn 1 through 5, asking your opponent to have an answer, it's a really nice spot to be, I think. And then you also just have random resets with Underworld Breach, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah. And I mean, Reckless Impulse and Ren's Resolve doing a solid job of that too.
I love those empty the warrens out of the sideboard too. Like opponent accounts for graveyard and just like, well, here's 14 goblins. Good luck.
Yeah. Aria Flame also.
Yeah, haven't seen that card in a while. I have a binder full of Aria Flame, so let's hope this one takes off.
Should have sold them when they were 7 or whatever.
I know, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I know, I was working on the Is It sort of version of this and was trying to work out if there was a way to get a sort of like combo kill into it or whatever, but it did require working pretty hard with a lot of stuff like this. And I sort of have the flip side issue with this where I wish there was some interaction in this version,
Mm-hmm.
and how many of these rituals do we actually need, like that sort of thing? Because if
I
you're
think the answer is a lot if you're ever going to realistically combo off.
really, because if you
I
have
think so.
Breach, it doesn't seem like you need the graveyard to just be like full of them, right? It's like if you have one, you just have as many as you want. So
If you have DRC working and like enough juice, like
yeah,
it feels like you need to find 2 most games, and having 12 in your deck means you're pretty set up to find 2.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like you're gonna flood on them a little bit, but gold fishing required.
Gigantha deck too.
Oh yeah, didn't even notice that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, Cannabis Boy. Oh, this deck is weird. Okay, Fury, Scion of Draco, Shadow of Mortality, Seasoned Pyromancer, some Thoughtseizes, 2 Fable of the Mirror Breakers, Leyline Binding, Lightning Bolt, Shadow Prophecy, and then Calibrated Blast. Shadow Prophecy, pretty good at setting that up, actually.
Yeah, no, it is.
And then, yeah, Witch's Cottage. I knew that was going to be there.
Cool little setup. Again, kind of like falling, I mean, not exactly, but kind of the same idea as Tribal Zoo with a combo. Is just like some cards with a combo tacked onto the top. Although I think you may be pretty reliant on the calibrated blast stuff. It doesn't seem like the rest of your creature is going to be all that good at getting the damage through.
Pyromancer, Scion, like, some Fable chip damage or whatever. It doesn't seem that bad, but yeah, games are probably a lot easier when you're set up to blast someone.
Mm-hmm. As is life.
Yes. Interesting deck, no matter what. I always love when people are just like splicing things together,
Yeah.
So
No,
respect.
How I approach Modern for a very long time, and sometimes you just gin it and hit something amazing. I think you have to do that kind of exploration.
Yeah. Festering 88, Tribal Zoo. This one utilizing only 4 invasions. This one, Invasion of Tarkir, to go alongside the Scion of Dracos. Other than that,
Okay. Yeah.
Wild Nacatl, Ragavan, Tarmogoyf, Territorial Kavu, some Stubborn Denials, etc.
Man, Zoo resurgence this week in the modern leagues.
Yeah, like I said, man, this league is pretty good. It's nice.
I like it. Feels like extended from 14 years ago.
All right, next up, Demonic Tutors, prolific Twitch streamer, playing a deck that I don't know. I kind of like forgot that you could do stuff like this. Didn't think you could do stuff like this, and also didn't think it was really in Tutors' wheelhouse to do stuff like this. This is like Fires of Invention, Time Warp, Savor the Moment, Planeswalker nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
wild stuff.
Wild stuff indeed. Chandra Hope speaking, making the cut. I wondered if maybe when I first started looking at this list, I'm like, oh, is this just a hard Hope speaking deck now? Just one copy here. It is interesting though, if like you're supposed to set up more towards a quasi ramp plus time warp Chandra deck. I don't know. I have like wheels turning in my head right now where I feel like there's something there. We kind of saw it in Pioneer, honestly, with the Epiphany Chandra decks, but it seems like there's something else you could do in Modern that would be even more powerful.
You're trying to do like the modern equivalent of big score into this stuff to do it a little bit sooner versus
Maybe.
Fires of Invention
Yeah,
goes
maybe.
sort of the slow route. Well, I mean, this deck has 3 Gemstone Caverns in the mana base. So
Okay.
I think that is the uh, concession towards that sort of thing, I guess. But yeah, I know what you mean. Chandra Torch of Defiance too, 1 copy of that leaning high down in there. So
Yeah, that's a ramp spell for sure.
also, this is a Karuga deck because you get to play Brazen Borrower, Fire Ice, Dead Gone, Fury. So
Yeah,
for
this
however
is
much that's worth it to you,
not the most exciting Karuga deck, I think.
no, but it's not that bad.
I don't know. I'm just a Karuga hater. Like I don't think
I
you can
am
talk me
too.
into it.
I am too.
It feels like the swing is almost never worth it. But if you're gonna build like I don't think actually this deck is warping itself all that much for Karuga. That's why it seems fine to me. So
No, it's like Dead Gone would be Lightning Bolt or something, but that's about it. Maybe you don't play
yeah.
Brazen Borrower, but I mean, other than that, these are all cards that you kind of want to be doing if you're committed to I'm gonna do Fires of Invention, Savor
Yeah.
the Moment sort of stuff.
Yeah. I
So
think you're 90% of the way there anyway. So
yeah, exactly. So cool deck. Props to tutors yet again. Fakival. Is that right? It's
sure. Look, you can make up whatever you want for these names. Like when you're dealing with usernames, I don't think you have to be all that precise with your pronunciation.
it's one of those things where I had to like blink at it. I was like, am I having sort of like a dyslexia moment? You know, it's like anyway.
I would go for Kibble in this case.
All right. Odd username, very straightforward deck. Blue white control, no nonsense like Ren and 6
Just playing
splashing
it
or
as
anything.
close to the vest as possible. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing exciting about this list.
Yeah, 4 dress down, 4 counterspell, 4 Dovin's Veto, 4 Archmage's Charm, just a bunch of 4 ofs, just right down the middle, a couple Teferi Hero Dominarias at the top ends. 2 Castle Vantress, so I guess now I'm a hater, but
Perfect.
yeah, sideboard is 4-4-4-2 and a Kahira.
This is a person who knows what they like.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. They know what cards they want to play and they want to counter some spells.
Yeah, you're talking about like, oh, you know, can we get in 1 copy of Medley Mage because that's almost always going to be good or whatever. And they're just like, I'm going to play the best blue white cards or like the blue white cards I love the most. That's it.
It's pretty simple, idiot. Just put in the best cards.
Next up, Mash Malovsky. Another Merfolk deck. This one with 2 copies of Spell Pierce, 1 Spreading Seas, no Force Negation, but also 2 Subtleties, no whatever ruins, or Seagate restorations, unfortunately. But
yeah, that makes sense given the reduced focus on subtlety, force, negation here. I have nothing. You can't make me talk about Merfolk again. I just refuse.
Shuto Shotokan, mono white humans, Coppercoat Vanguard making an appearance. This one is the Solitude Shining Shoal, now with Force of Virtue also, version of the deck that has 4 copies of Amiria's Call. Yeah, and no Ether Vial, of course. I honestly, I need to play with this deck because I don't know. My first instinct is like, oh, I want to play the Vial version. But this one certainly has a lot of power spike capabilities that the other one does not have access to. And this one also now has Knight Errant of Eos as kind of a bigger card to go with Shining Shoal that you sort of want to just put in your deck anyway. Yep. And is a way to make up for the loss of card advantage from all of these things. So this one is starting to look pretty appealing to me too.
No, like I said, you could either sit there and die to the same cards over and over, Fury, or you can look for new answers. And a lot of what's going on here seems very reasonable. Like these cards are now powerful enough that you can bear some of this loss of I guess you'd call it again action economy. Well, Ether Vial's kind of action economy weird, right? Like it does
It
seem to push you forward for
it's
the
it's
most part.
slow until it's good, right?
Yeah,
It pays you off
that's
on like
fair.
turns 2 and 3.
Yep. But Knight Errant catching you back up for the card disadvantage stuff makes a lot of sense. I do wonder if you're able to juice it effectively enough, but maybe you just don't care, and like this is a fine 3-drop. I think that's
Yeah.
completely reasonable in this deck.
Yeah, there's no like raise the alarm type of stuff trying to make it go super wide or anything, but like you don't have to because you're also pairing it alongside a bunch of free spells, you know?
Yep.
So you're still able to do a couple different things every turn, right? Or at least it
Yep.
seems that way.
Oh, and like you mentioned, just having another nice discard for Shining Troll means that card is turned on a lot more, and it is important it shows up when you need it to. We're now looking at Miria's Call, Knight Errant of Eos, and Force of Virtues as sort of just hard Fury counters. So
Yeah, Solitude too.
yeah, Solitude as well. So a lot of options.
Oh, like the Force of Virtue stuff, like can you imagine where they're like 2/1/1 with my
Yep,
Fury
and just there's something special about that feeling. Like because I often experience small amounts of synesthesia, I equate weird things in Magic with broader feelings, and then those translate through the rest of my life. This is going to be a really hard concept to explain. Bear with me.
Is synesthesia not primarily just colors?
It can be. It manifests in different forms.
Okay.
But like the most common one is like color based. But there is something about the feeling when you do that like broad pump at instant speed and counter very specific damage that to me feels exactly like parallel parking a car perfectly.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to make sense to anyone else on the planet, but something about that specific interaction, it just feels like you just cruised right in there.
It's just one of those things where you explain it like that, and it's like I know the exact feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have a parallel parking story, but whatever. I'm not gonna because for as much as we get in the weeds, no one especially cares about that. So
all right, just all I want to know is rate your parallel parking on a scale from 1 to 10.
Well, okay, so my story is that I did okay in my driving test as far as parallel parking is concerned, but like never had to apply it in the real world because I didn't live in a city. And then the first time I was put in a situation where I had to parallel park, I just ginned it.
Nice.
Like first try felt incredible, and I'm just like, am I the best parallel parker on the planet? You know? And I don't think I've been able to successfully do it on the first try since then.
I can teach you.
This was 20
I am a 10
years
out of
ago.
10 parallel parker, and I am convinced I can teach anyone on the planet to be a 10 out of 10 parallel parker. This might actually be my next career.
I know the mechanics of it.
Nope. I promise if I taught you the mechanics, you would be a 10 out of 10 parallel parker. Everyone thinks they know, but it's just very, very simple.
It's just geometry, man. It's just math.
It's very simple.
But it's weird because I have to be kind of like familiar with the car. Like that certainly helps a lot.
I don't think you do.
Okay.
I'm telling you, next time we're together, I'm going to put you through parallel parking class.
All right, man. I'm in. I'm in. I was teaching a mutual friend of ours actually kind of like how to drive because they were a New Yorker who didn't have their license at like 25 or whatever and was like, I should probably get this or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like I helped in that regard, teaching the mechanics. They passed.
That's good.
So
that's good.
Not going to throw them under the bus or anything, but all right. Soimba Galade. Or it could be Gallade, like the Pokemon.
I would have went Galade.
All right. Invasion of Ikoria. This is the one I was looking for. XGG battle. Search up one copy of Vampire Hexmage. I think it was modern. It like Felix Slew won one of the challenges a while back. I don't know if you saw this with like I think it was Death Shadow, Tarmogoyf, Invasion of Ikoria.
I did see that.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, badass. This is kind of doing that thing. There are Tarmogoyfs. There's 4 Invasions, 1 Vampire Hexmage, 4 Urza Saga, 4 Elvish Reclaimer, also 4 copies of Nissa, Resurgent Animist, another Aftermath card. Surprised we haven't actually seen more of this because it's
it's 50 tickets on Magic Online, so nobody can get it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. pretty popular to experiment with this in, like a lot of like Karuga nonsense sort of stuff. But
Card is very good.
yeah, just elemental Omnath stuff for sure. And just kind of like moonlighting in this deck as like a Lotus Cobra value engine, find my endurance, like kind of thing. I don't know. It's cool.
Or your Elvish Reclaimer.
Oh, I did forget about that. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, all right, we're just like loading up on Nissas and then eventually hitting an endurance.
We have Glissa as well.
Yeah.
Arya. There's a few.
Yeah.
Hit once in a while.
Like I noticed like the random one-ofs and was like, is that good enough? But yeah, like hitting the Reclaimers, okay, that makes sense. For whatever reason, it just didn't track to me as an actual elf card.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Anything interesting we're doing with this Reclaimer here in terms of setting something up? Well, man, imagine if you could do this to go get Dark Depths, and then you have this Vampire Hex Mage that can both get your Invasion of Icorias and...
Well, you have access to Reclaimer into Rot Farm, which is just one of my favorite things to do on the planet. Mm-hmm. So I really don't care about anything else that's going on.
Are they doing this in Legacy?
I have no idea.
It does seem like something you could do, right? Like you could Hex Mage, Invasion of Icoriia, Elvish Reclaimer, and just have your whole Dark Depths nonsense with this backup of, I mean, late 8.
Yeah, I'm sure that exists, but Legacy for, I don't know, basically, yeah, since like Ragavan type of crap, I've had ebbs and flows where I'm like interested in the format and then I just get off of it because there's just too much nonsense. And basically since the Into the Dungeon stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the dungeon was what really broke me on Legacy.
Yeah, I was just like, nothing even interesting is happening in this format anymore, so I just stopped clicking on it. I guess I looked a little bit to see what people were doing with Atraxa and to kind of like get my ducks in a row and see what I needed to get the remaining copies of cards for like Rakdos Reanimator and Legacy if I ever wanted to go to a Legacy tournament.
How's that going? Have you been to any Legacy tournaments since?
I have not been to any Legacy tournaments, nor have I acquired all of the cards, but the reason for that is I don't need many of them because I had most of the Reanimator pieces already.
Okay, that's good.
I have like Japanese Tempest reanimates and like FBB animate deads and stuff. Like I am well stocked.
Nice. That's good. You want to always have those readily available.
Yeah. You never know when like a pickup game of Legacy is going to happen, right?
Right. You got to break out your finest cards.
All right. Stanley Steamer. Is it Phoenix? Demi-Lich.
Forgot about that card. Wow.
Yeah. This is like an aspiring...
That was also Hogaak, I think.
Oh, yeah. This is an aspiring spike only card, you know? Light Splash for Prismatic Ending. Doing Faithless Salvaging stuff, which I think is, I want to say comically underrated, but I also get it. Like I've definitely played with it and had situations where, you ideally try and get it to be like the last card in your hand in some instances, but then there are instances where like you have 2 copies in your hand. It's like, this kind of sucks.
This is the worst. Yep.
Yeah. But 1 copy of Fiery Temper, 1 copy of Just the Wind, a couple little Madness Enablers to go along with Faithless Salvagings and the Faithful Mendings. Yeah. I feel like it's kind of nonsense to be doing that stuff, but I also love it.
This is all nonsense. This is not good enough
for
modern anymore. I also love it, but it's not good enough. It really can't be.
All right, fine. Okay. Radiant Rice, Dirge.
I'm looking for interesting things, but I haven't found any. 4
Gemstone Caverns in the sideboard.
Okay, that's cool.
How often? 4 is a lot,
It is. I do think, though, throughout the history of Modern, this is something that should have happened more often.
Yeah, probably. Especially since so many of the Dredge sideboard cards were pretty mopey, pretty ineffectual. Yep. So
I can see this mattering in a lot of spots.
Yeah, this one is just like, we got some ley lines, got some disenchants for anti-hate, and then caverns. Let's go.
Keep it simple.
Renegade, green, white, Heliod, but with a lot of weirdness. 1 Sylvan Caryatid, kind of strange. A giant killer, 4 Sanctifier in Vex main deck, 4 Prosperous Innkeepers, which
I
links
did the same thing.
to Prosper Tomebound. Thank you,
Which
Gatherer.
is somehow a real card. Okay.
And 4 Haywire Mites main deck. Love it.
Yeah. The most exciting card to me here is Haywire Mite. Everything else is just like I don't know. I thought we were over this deck. It doesn't do a lot for me anymore. I think it is completely okay.
I would actually have to take stock of how many decks are cold to Infinite Life, because the number may surprise you. You know,
that's a good question.
But Haywire Mite, especially like in this context, just like, oh, we're just gonna play 4 main deck. You know, in a deck that doesn't even have Urza Saga, right? It's like that's the sort of thing where if artifacts are the best thing to be doing in Modern, it's like, okay, it's not that bad because people are already doing a bunch of stuff.
This card is just good. It's just a very good card. You don't really have to stretch all that far.
Right. So I don't really like this deck, but I have Moto blinders on. Like most of the way that I interact with Modern is through Moto, and even if I was like testing for a real life tournament, I would be soured by the fact that I wouldn't be able to effectively test this on Magic Online. So I don't actually have a ton of experience with this. I do have experience with like green-white Devoted Druid and going through the iterations of that sort of stuff. And I sort of hate like green-white creature combo setups, but this one looks like a little weird to me, to the point where it's like, maybe this is like actually doing something where it's like, you have Hogaak Champions, you have Sanctifier and Vex, you're just very, very frustrating for like Scam to deal with, you know, like that kind of thing. So maybe you get
much like you have to take stock of how good Infinite Life is. I think you have to take stock of how many decks are actually trying to pressure your life total in a fair fashion. And if that number is high, I think this deck becomes much better.
Yeah, because this deck starts every game at 30. So, and then I don't know, maybe you just Heliod like beat down them. Who knows?
It can happen. Or maybe you whiff on your collected companies.
Unlikely. 35 creatures. One of them's a walking ballista, so maybe not the best hit, but
I'll find a way.
You will find a way. All right, Cha-Cha Clyde. Oh yeah, I love this deck. I sent this to you, dude. You left me on red when I sent this to you. I'm so pissed.
I was also excited about it, but you caught me at a busy time, which is just kind of like my MO these days. But
you make time for stuff like this. Okay,
I should.
This is Rakdos Scam. But Unlucky Witness, 3 Mayhem Devils, 2 Bloodghast, 4 Goblin Bombardment, 1 Obnixilus Captive Kingpin. Dude, this is cool.
Yeah, just quasi. It's not even like combo kill. Like you can't actually combo in any meaningful ways. You just add a bunch of reach and annoying damage to your deck. Goblin Bombardment, one of my all-time just favorite cards. I am very much in the camp of this is as much fun as you can have while playing Magic. So getting up to nonsense with this and feign deathing my furies and griefs while wanting you, that one makes all the difference in the world to me. Like now I'm living my best life.
Yeah, or even just Mayhem Devil incarnation, right? Like you get like the extra value. It just feels so nice, you know?
Yeah, that one matters. I mean, maybe it doesn't, but to me it does.
Yeah. I just love the idea of Bombardment, Unlucky Witness, like feign deathing that thing.
That's very cool. What do you think about this Tomb of Arami in the mana base? Haven't seen that in quite some time.
Yeah, that card always struck me as nonsense. But go off. You can just do whatever you want.
I just know I own a few, and a nice old fashioned spike on Tomb of Arami would do me some good. Should I ever sell, which I won't. So who cares?
Yeah, stonks. It makes a little bit more sense if you're planning on just pitch carding your entire hand away. It's like, well, at that point, just like sack all our lands, make a 5/5. Who cares?
I do like gambits, and I like gambits in particular that just like leave you cold. And I think the best players know when to activate those gambits, and they kind of get a bad rap from maybe more middle of the road players who feel like they're supposed to control everything. But the best players know that sometimes you just got to shove all in, and that's what you do.
Honestly, I think the thing I hated about Westvale Abbey the most was that you did shove, and then they're like, obviously I have answer to Ormondal, and then you have to technically keep playing the game because you still have your lands.
Yeah, frustrating. Or just take my lands away and let's be done
Yeah,
with this.
then we'll just scoop up our 0 remaining permanents and go next, right?
Yeah.
I like that a lot better. Galinator, I know this person. Friend of mine.
Can you
Have
talk to
not
them about their deck choice?
I have not, but they're like a Grixis aficionado, so they used to like do collabos a decent amount of time. Basically just encouraging each other to play to their worst habits, I guess,
Okay.
as
Yeah.
like two Grixis fans are wont to do. Anyway, this is a little bit more tempered. This is blue-white control, a couple dress downs, couple force negations, couple subtleties, but also Narset Parter Avails, Days Undoing.
Yeah, I will say a pretty disciplined approach to the Days Undoing combo. I like this better than just like I am a Days Undoing deck, and then you have the one of like Gyro Reach Sanitarium to kind of exploit a little bit more. I think that is the perfect amount of nonsense you need for these decks. And even if it was one of, I would sign off on it. Just like let Narset be a good card, try and gin that Days Undoing in some spot. And I think that's what that card is supposed to do.
Yep, I'm down kind of with all of this. Like if I were doing blue-white control stuff, you could definitely sell me on this, especially when you're this is like kind of a combo, kind of not a combo, but you're pairing Narset with 6 incarnations. So you're doing more of the tap out planeswalkery thing, but you have more pitch spells to back it up. So the creatures obviously like don't really combo with the Narset, but it makes you feel a lot more safe spending like an early turn developing in that sort of way when you actually have protection to back it up too. So I do like this. I think that this is a very well built deck.
Yeah, looks clean.
Ezebison, Jund, Liliana the Veil, Riveteer's Charm, Akroxa, just all the sort of stuff I hate.
I have nothing to offer this person. Enjoy your life. Keep playing Jund.
Yeah, I hope
you don't care about what I say anyway, so why bother? I
hope that you got the maximum amount of value from the league, and by that I mean like you got to play the full 15 games. You know, like that is I think ultimately what you want as a Jund player.
Probably.
It is much better than the classic Jund league, which is like a 3-2, you know, the old Jund 5-0.
Right. Yeah.
Deck,
I've lived through a lot of those.
Yeah. Deck Fate in 07. Here we go. Rhinos, but make it Nissa, Resurgent Animist, Omnath, Bloodbraid Elf, and Scion of Draco, obviously.
Yeah. I think I like this more than I like typical Rhinos, honestly. Like at least we're doing a solid backup plan that actually seems pretty appealing to me. I am a Nissa believer. I'll say that. I think this card is just extremely, extremely good. I don't think you need to work very hard to make it extremely, extremely good. And you know, hit your Fury, hit your Omnath, and I think that's all you really need to do here. And then you just get a Lotus Cobra sometimes, which is completely fine.
Yeah, I agree with all that. The question of like, well, like what is Nissa doing? You make it work, you know, because
I guess you get Bloodbraid Elf too. There's always a hidden elf there that you aren't accounting for.
Oh so. Yeah. I not gonna lie, I was not thinking about that, but yeah,
that's cool.
See, I was just thinking like, okay, more Nissas and Furies and Omnaths, like we're good, but yeah, hitting Bloodbraid Elf is pretty nice too.
Man, I love Bloodbraid Elf. This is almost enough to tempt me.
All right, Calendar, MTG, humans, but Ether Vial Saga, Unsettled Mariner, Reflector Mage, so just straight blue-white, Fortified Beachhead. Let's go.
Yeah, okay. It works. I did a quick scroll. You got the soldiers, so
yeah, this is not bad.
Yeah,
Unsettled Mariner doing some odd soldier stand-ins. That's cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, this all look like. I mean, Coppercoat Vanguard also a soldier, very much ready to do the thing. So yeah, we're doing it for sure.
Does that move the needle for standard at all? I didn't actually notice that.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Soldiers and standard is not literally Hogaak, and we have established that is the bar. So
that's all we have time for. Correct.
All right. Here's another affinity deck that is Seagate Restoration, Force and Negation stuff. Kind of curious as to like what is actually different enough from this list to the last one, but I'm definitely not going to go look. So
nope, I agree with all of that. And it feels like these decks have identified something they're trying to exploit with this counter Magic Suite. So interesting to watch them and see if they can take down some events over the coming weeks.
Next up, Rock Paper. Literally Hogaak, but make it modern. This one is Gruul, cheap stuff, Bushwhacker, Convoke into Ancient Imperiosaur, which is 5GG 6/6 dinosaur. Convoke, trample, ward 2. This enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it for each creature that convoked it. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you probably have not played a ton of limited with March, right?
I registered for the Arena Open.
Oh, really?
I built my deck. Did not play any games.
Okay.
That's been the extent of my limited involvement.
Just donating. Dude, you didn't even have time to like join and concede to people?
I should have. That would have been polite. It didn't cross my mind. I could have squeezed that in, but I just built the deck and I was like, this doesn't excite me.
Okay. No, that's completely fair. This card is funny because it's just been like the most ludicrous thing you can be doing sometimes, and then sometimes it's just, you know, a 30/30 that just gets spot removal killed, and it's it varies wildly.
I could see that. Do you want to point out the Chatterstorm usage here, getting some good use out of those Bryan G tokens, of which I have about 4,000 in my basement. So if anyone needs some,
I have maybe 10,000. I don't know how many I have. I have so many.
Yeah, too many.
But yeah, the green things to convoke, definitely very nice. This looks good to me. It looks like you spew a bunch of things out on the battlefield, and then you either pay it off with one of the 7 Bushwhackers or just the very, very big thing at the top end. And sometimes it is just like going super wide, I guess, with like Shatterstorms and demolitions and rebirths, and like maybe you don't even need one of the Bushwhackers because you're just so wide. So the problem with these lists has always been like, oh, I draw like too many enablers basically and not enough payoffs. But now I think you're just at a point where there is enough. And I don't know if that's actually a thing that you want to be doing in Modern, or a thing that's like fast enough or interacts enough, because certainly this deck doesn't interact very much. But you know, it is there. It's a thing that you can try.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, all-in decks like this have benefited a ton from the London Mulligan, but this one is also critical mass. So those are the decks that have not benefited from London Mulligan.
Right.
Like you can go set this up, but you still need 7 cards in your hand to really do anything. And that's why these decks have kind of not skyrocketed to the top the way some of the other combo decks have.
Yeah, A+B.
Yeah, I don't see a ton here that fixes that problem, honestly. Like it just looks like another version of something we've seen before.
Cool. Yeah, and I wonder if these sort of decks can take notes from any of the spites that's happening in Pioneer, because I've seen like some pretty good iterations of the archetype over there too.
Yeah, maybe.
So be interesting. Impetuous, Illidan's Call, Devoted Druid, Fiend Artisan, which basically means it's a given that there's like Tyvar in the list, because that's a pretty nice combo too. No sagas, just a Stoneforge Mystic kind of mini package here. I don't know. This looks solid. This looks like a pretty good version of Devoted Druid.
Yeah, you like the Stoneforge Juke out of this deck?
Well, Stoneforge also just provides a bunch of like combo pieces too.
Yeah.
So it seems sort of like a necessity. I don't know.
Okay.
It's also the thing, like you play Stoneforge and like hit Cauldra Complete or Batterskull or whatever, and they're like, well, kill your Stoneforge, and then you have Tyvar to immediately bring it back. That's always pretty nice.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So I don't know. I like this. It seems all right.
Okay.
Worth a shot. Maybe he has some Fury problems, but has like 2 Burnt and Forge Tenders main deck. I don't know if you need to do more work than that to stop that issue, but who knows?
Feels like yes, given how far other decks have to go, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe
Tyvar helps. Getting those rebuys is good.
It does for sure. But yeah, at that point it's like a tempo problem maybe. But all right. Musagete?
Approved.
I don't even know like what language, like what dialect this could be pulling from.
It could just be complete nonsense.
It could
That's
be.
always a potential dialogue.
I feel like most people like don't do things at random though. You know, there's usually a reason behind things. Anyway, we got some elves. 1 Finale of Devastation, 2 Court of Calling, 2 Collected Company, 37 creatures, 18 lands. Okay, 1 Vizier of Remedies.
I forgot Quir and Rager was legal in Modern, honestly.
Yeah, so 4 Devoted Druid, kind of splashing that in there. Realm Walker. Yeah.
This feels like elf combo with very few ways to actually combo.
No, yeah, you just like Azuri.
You just Azuri, yeah.
plus make a bunch of mana or whatever. Or like Devoted Druid into like your Miser's Finale or something. I don't know.
I would prefer to draw my deck instead. Let
Yeah.
me know when we can do that. Glimpse of Nature unbanned? I think you could.
I mean, you could.
I just think the context around Modern has changed so much that the actual ban list should be completely revisited at this point.
Yeah. I mean, given the fact that again, like there is Force of Negation and Fury and that sort of stuff, it's like, Glimpses, probably not that offensive, but I am always concerned about the new things that you could do with Glimpse potentially, and I don't know what those are. All I'm saying is like explore those options first before you unilaterally make the decision to unban a bunch of stuff.
Nah, fuck it. Just unban everything.
I mean,
go to town.
That was kind of the solution for Modern beforehand. It's like the format's big enough, it'll probably sort itself out. It'll be fine.
That's what became like the defining method of Legacy sorting itself out, and it worked for a very long period of time.
It did.
It only really stopped working when you sort of rewrote the rules of how powerful cards can be via, Commander box sets or modern Horizons type sets. Once we got into that period, then it became very, very hard for these things to just sort themselves out.
Yeah, it's like, all right, now we gotta take a little bit more of a hands-on approach or whatever.
Yeah.
Odd that this is actually an elf-based deck and does not include Nissa, but I kind of get it because that's a little small ball, a little too slow and grindy for what this deck is actually trying to do.
Sideboard package could be quite good.
It could be, or just maybe in place of Realm Walker.
Okay,
I could see that too. Anyway, Inevis, Hardened Scales, a lot of Hardened Scales, a lot of Ozliths, 3 of each Ozlith, 4 Hardened Scales, of course. Patchwork Automaton, love to see it. 1 Gemstone Caverns, I was looking for that, and another in the sideboard because this is a deck that is like it could use something like Mox Opal very badly because you don't have a ton of efficient things to do on turn 1. You're very much about like, I need to get to like 2 mana and then to 4 mana, and then that's when you really start popping off,
Yeah, these are the decks that I'd be like excited to put back into the metagame with Mox Opal coming back.
Yeah.
It's just I probably living in denial of some of the decks that I would not be excited to put back into the metagame. But things like this would be really good.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know, we could debate how bad was Modern actually when it was like stirrings versus looting or whatever, and it's like I don't think it was that bad. But
nope, I think it's better than it is now.
It could be hindsight blinders on a little bit, or like nostalgia blinders. I don't know.
Maybe.
Masa Kitaro Tron, still got some green cards in here. So Scrying Ancient Stirrings, Thragtusk. I saw some that were kind of like mono brown with like the artifact that looks at the top 5, basically does the stirring thing, and like I don't think that's that bad.
It seems okay. Karn back in the mix. That's nice to see.
Yeah, this is a more classical version, I would say.
Not sure who this beats anymore. That's okay. Tron gonna Tron.
It's like the Jund player, the Liliana the Veil Jund player. It's like I hope you had a great time.
Yep. I would fire up a Tron League. I could enjoy myself. I wouldn't finish it, but I would fire it up.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair. Ganja de Yanga. Not mono red goblins. Little black splash, little green splash. Ignoble Hierarch. Sling Gang Lieutenants. We have the combo, right? Yeah, 4 Harbingers, 4 Snoops. But this one is doing more of like the normal goblin-y stuff, like 3 ringleaders.
Yeah, this is cool. This feels like old legacy goblins in a lot of ways. I also wouldn't register that deck for a tournament, but
No,
probably the same thing going on here. But it's fun.
This is like the old humans decks where you play it and it feels okay and you're like, oh, maybe I'm making progress or whatever, and then you play against like a string of fury decks and you're just like, God, what the hell am I doing in my life?
What am I doing with my life? I need to reevaluate.
And this one doesn't seem like it has a lot of incidental stuff that you can add to it, like, oh, I'll just play Force of Virtue or whatever to get around it.
Yeah, man. Like the more we have this conversation and you talk about like what cards are banned and what cards aren't, it just feels like Fury is supposed to be banned way more than any of the other cards we're talking about in terms of like what it makes possible. Yes,
I guess
you have to choose a lane. You have to choose a lane, right? Like it either is there or it isn't there.
Yeah, and we say that, but all of these decks are showing up. Like how many merfolk and elves and like goblins and humans? Like the next deck is our 4th humans deck of the deck dump, right?
No, that's a lot.
Fluorspar. This one is Vile, lots of colors, humans, but also with 2 Force of Virtue, Meddling Mage, but also Jarina and Coppercoat Vanguard. So this is just like the amalgam of all of them, effectively.
Value Force of Virtue here.
Yeah, which is great. I was looking at things like Burnt and Forge Tender main, but again, like just notching the Fury on the stack with Force seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, again, to like legend density, as you put more legends into this deck, I like ways to use the redundant ones. So Force of Virtue doing a good job there.
Yeah, my method was, I guess I just let them all die to Fury and then I deploy my other ones.
Then I make them again. Yeah, that'll work.
But no, like Jarina does a good job of that too, just giving all your stuff X-proof. So a lot of built-in answers. Also, this one has Forge Tenders in the sideboard and Sanctifier and Vex and whatnot. Liberty Bell.
These decks are trying. They're definitely trying.
Oh, yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. Liberty Bell and some numbers for Bomat Courier. I'm salivating. Mono Red Saga with the 4 Shrapnel Blast, 4 Galvanic Blast, 4 Lightning Bolt. The first version of this deck to pop up that I saw had like DRC and stuff. This one has 4 Memnites, 3 Cranial Plating. Let's go.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
I love this, man.
Give this deck some opals. Only this deck.
Yes. Nobody else. Absolutely. This would be so rad.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this deck so much. I might actually
believe it's good.
Got
him.
I decline to answer on the grounds that I may incriminate myself, I guess. Don't want to just be a absolute liar on the podcast or expose my ineptitude in regards to Modern, my out of touchness, so
just call it Hogaak and move on.
Oh yeah, literally Hogaak is the name of this deck actually. I think I still have the other one built, like the OG version. How many cranial platings do I own? That's a good question.
You have to have enough cranial platings.
Over time I've owned them, but I've lost them at various points.
Okay.
Like sold my collection or gotten it
if you need me to.
Burned in a fire or whatever. So now it's like, oh, if I open half a box of like some master set or whatever, I pick up like 1 or 2 copies, so I don't know how many I actually own, but there's the old bordered version, I guess. So is this in Brothers War? So that means that Cho probably has a bunch because he opened a case.
There you go.
So I can also just go raid his stash. But
those are pretty rare, right?
No, there's 1 a pack, and like the commons, the commons were very common. I think in his case there were almost 3 play sets of Mishra's Bauble, for example.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah, the commons and uncommons were very common and uncommon. I will say that.
So my Bauble's not worth what they used to be.
No, they are not. If they are $10, I'd be shocked.
They're foil. Does that help?
If they are foil Cold Snap, you might still be good.
I don't think so.
Okay. A Johnny 89, amulet, but with Through the Breach, Got some copies of Green Sun's Twilight. I actually suggested Green Sun's Twilight as a card to kind of like tie the room together in speculation of Mycosynth Gardens coming out, where it's like, well, now you are probably pretty good at assembling double amulet. You just need to ensure that you're actually able to still
You
have
a
enough
payoff.
threat density, right?
Yep. And then this does that. Seems completely fine. I don't know about Through the Breach. Like I've never really been a huge Through the Breach believer in amulet. I'm not sure if like wanting to do Green Sun's Twilight stuff changes that at all. It doesn't immediately to me.
I feel like you would want to play one or the other.
Yeah, that's my first guess, but I would have to think about it more. I'm not saying that with like hard authority.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
that's just my off the cuff reaction. Obviously, I don't know for sure, but the sideboard of this one is kind of wild too. Like one Kogla and Yadaro, one Care Keep, a Dragon Lord Dramoka, a Cityscape Leveler.
Okay. I am curious about the Care Keep. The other stuff I see, like it makes sense to me for sure. That one I'm not 100% sold on yet. Just trying to sort it out in my head.
Yeah, I mean,
I got nothing.
We played a Colony Garden for Liliana, but I don't know why you'd specifically want to Care Keep.
Yeah, that was also back when we were playing Tribe Scouts too.
Yeah,
we actually needed to keep it alive. Now we have Grazers, and it's just like, okay,
yeah,
do your thing.
I don't know. All right, Myoke, Tron, but mono blue, which for whatever reason just means that it has to be full of one-ofs and nonsense, and that remains true.
Yeah. These people are they're unstoppable. They will just do this till the end of time, and it will never change. And again, they don't care what I have to say, so I'll just save my words.
Oh, that's true. They definitely don't care. If you are a condescend, remand, repeal gamer, this is where you want to be. This is your sweet spot.
Yep.
NSG 1989, Indomitable Creativity. This is the Daryl Ayers list, or like pretty close to it list that I do like a lot. It just like cuts through all the BS and just plays like nonsense. The best cheap cards. 4 copies of Spell Pierce, bunch of Lightning Bolts, you know.
Seems good. I still think this deck is very good.
Yeah, I do too. This is not exactly that list, I guess. You know, decent amount of time has passed since then, but I think the core of it, the thing that it was getting to, just like distilling it down to the cheapest parts, I think is the thing that they kind of held on to with this, which I like. Said it for so long, just get rid of all the nonsense, like streamline this deck and it would be so good, and here we are. So
we did it.
Red Basilisk, blue, black, Mill, Misers, Jay's Perfected Mind, Misers Ensnaring Bridge, got some Merfolk Seeker Keepers, no idea if that's playable. Fading Hope is odd, and Echoing Truth is kind of odd, but whatever.
Yeah, this deck just gets to win a random tournament at some point.
Oh, I see. 4 copies of Scheming Symmetry.
Yeah, so getting your demonic tutors going.
That doesn't seem great to me, but
no.
Whatever. All right.
I think that card was Hogaak too for a period of time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Willie Adel. Just stock Rakdos scam.
Scamming people.
As you do. All right.
Yeah.
Making a note to play a lot of actual Rakdos cards for Blood Tithe Harvester to terminate 2 Dreadbore. So going for a lot of consistency. Respect.
Seems fine.
Fuya, Hammer, 2 Surge of Salvation, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Kemba, Caw, Enduring, couple Haywire Mites hanging out. Sure.
Is Kemba good? Doesn't seem great.
Do you remember when we talked about this?
We were excited about it, and then
I realized it wasn't core Outfitter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of poo-pooed it, but like there was the slight upside where it was castable off of like Urza Saga, so you know maybe. But I think end of the day I was just like, yeah, never mind. This doesn't seem good enough, but it is a card you can technically play. Like if you have the hammer box, like Todd had his teamer box, and you have like amulet
put
box
this
or
in the
whatever.
hammer
Like
box.
it lives in the box.
It seems fine. Yeah.
All right. Extra easy.
Extra easy.
That one.
Come
okay.
on, Gerald.
Well,
that one was actually extra easy.
Clearly, it's not. I got hooked up on the RAEA in the middle, right? But yeah, extra easy. Ironically enough, 88. Shadow. I was like looking for scam stuff, but no, it's just Rakdos Shadow stuff.
Just Rakdos cards with Shadow.
Yeah, a couple Underworld Breaches chilling. I think that is an excellent place to be for whatever sort of like DRC, Ragavan, mid-range deck you are. Breach as just a value card is so incredible.
Yep. Completely fine. I would talk myself into this deck like once in a while if I was still playing a heavy dose of leagues, and it would be fine. Like very much in the Jund range, I think.
Yeah. I was about to make a Jund 5-0 comment, like probably rack up some 3-2s.
Yep.
No big deal. All right, next up, Aimbot, Burn, no Eidolon, 2 Roiling Vortex. I think that's like kind of normal-ish now. I'm not sure if I'm on board 100% with that. I do like Roiling Vortex a ton, so I'm in favor of definitely playing that main deck, but I don't know if I want to like cut Eidolon completely. It's the meddling mage kind of thing, right? It's like, is playing one that bad,
Yeah, just see if you can spike. I understand that theory. I tend not to offer advice on burn decks because they all look just horrible to me. The only time burn is actually appealing to me is when Searing Blaze type effects are good. Like if you can do that and get value, then I start getting enticed by burn. I want to say I don't think that's where Modern is, but then as we move through this deck dump, it's just creature deck after creature deck. So maybe you're fine for picking up a 5-0.
But like a lot of the stuff that they're using to combat Fury also is pretty good against Searing Blaze, right? Like all the random like ward effects and stuff.
That is true.
Maybe not the Force of Virtues, but certainly the Shining Shoals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, Shining Shoal. Ugh.
Yeah, that'll get you.
I've registered burn a couple times, one of which was the I think it was the only SCG Players Championship that I played in, and just had like a good read that it was going to be very good, and sure enough, it was just like a lot of Delvery sort of things, and burn is just incredible into a field like that. So there's a time and a place.
Yeah, I've been close exactly one time. I had 2 decks and I didn't know which one I was going to register, and it was Pro Tour Vancouver, where I did very medium with my constructed deck in 6-0 limited. So I regret very much not registering burn for that tournament because it was also absurd in that tournament.
Okay.
And I just couldn't bring myself to be a burn player, and I still regret it.
Yeah, I mean, I played red decks at a couple of the later Pro Tours and didn't really regret it, but this was like Runaway Steamkin, Experimental Frenzy type of stuff. So
yep. Yeah, this era was like the 4 damage uncounterable thing, and then there was Searing Blood, which lined up really well against all the like Jace decks. So basically every deck had targets for it, and there was like, I think ultimately it went on to win the Pro Tour, but also there was a bunch of copies in the top 8 as well.
Yeah, that tournament was funny. I know that we're like running out of time here, and I'll try and get through the last decks quick, but I do want to tell the story. We're like, we got to our testing house and I built mono red because it just had so many powerful looking cards from like Origins and like the last couple sets. And we just happened to be on a team that was very high on mono green Devotion players, like Brad Nelson and whatnot. And we just couldn't get the red deck to beat Devotion. So I was like, oh, I guess like this red deck is not playable. But like no one else in the Pro Tour field was like a Devotion player, like no one tested against Devo or anything. So it was like we all end up playing Devo because we think it's pretty good. And we think that mono red is not good, but like no one else tested against Devo. So they all think mono red is pretty good. It's like mono red's the deck of the tournament, but like we end up crushing the mono red people, it's very weird.
Yeah. Yeah, day 1, I crushed all the Devo decks.
Yeah.
And then day 2, they were gone, and the red decks and like and soul decks were just stomping my my shitty creature combo deck all day long. So
yeah, and we got beat up by the Insol decks a decent amount. So
yeah,
I don't know. I top 25. I thought it was pretty good. I beat up on a bunch of mono red decks, so it's good times.
Good enough.
Kubasek, Uh 79 card 4-color Omnath. Just, something about that is funny to me.
It seems perfect. Seems like the perfect number of cards.
Yeah, no Nissa, nothing like super fancy outside of playing 79 cards, I guess. Like doing
Is that fancy or is that just
it's
nonsense?
it's something. It's definitely nonsense. But like, yeah, I mean, Eladamri's Call, you gotta fit in that deputy of detention, you know what I'm saying? So
I guess so.
Emrakul the Promised End at the top end, whatever. Yeah, I don't like this. Arch Gaze. Okay.
Yeah, this is a new archetype that we get to talk about.
2 Ragavans. Almost certainly the correct number. But DRC Tarmogoyf, Fable, Lightning Bolt,
Oh, just a normal deck, nothing exciting.
Bobble, Traverse, Tarfire. I will say, even with Traverse and whatnot, it's a mistake to register Tarfire. Okay, it just is.
Okay.
All right, just so you know. But yeah, red green, Ragavan DRC, pretty normal Traverse stuff, and then you have Kragenwick Cremator into Yargle and Multani.
I have a binder full of Kragenwick Cremators.
Hell yeah,
sitting
dude!
out there, and
are you rich?
I don't think so because it was reprinted. Let's go ahead and look. We'll take a Google.
I was like,
there was
Double Masters too. This is pretty recent.
Yep. It's only been reprinted once. So Kragenwick. Did I spell that right?
Kragganwick.
49 cents from Double Masters.
Unlucky.
49 cents from Shadowmoor. Double Masters foil, $2. There's no value here. I have a worthless binder full.
Listen,
Kragenwick Cremators.
Listen though, here's the upside, right? Outside of Ragavan and Fable, the rest of this deck has got to be pretty cheap, right?
Yeah, I would expect so.
Like there's a random Cavernous Souls to traverse for, and I would argue that is kind of a necessity. But you know, you don't necessarily need to play 2 Ragavans.
Feels like the endurances in the sideboard are probably expensive.
No, they are. They are for sure. But I don't know. Like say you can build a modern deck for like $300. Like that's pretty good, right?
Oh, that's cool.
And
I think this deck is good too, by the way. Like I think it's just completely fine.
It's not bad. I would certainly much rather do this than Liliana the Veil, you know?
Yep. I would agree with that.
No, this is cool. Hiwa, Ragavan, Tarmogoyf, Urza Saga, but also Liliana of the Veil. There is also a Glissa Sun Slayer, but there is a Glissa but no Nissa. So not super fancy.
Soul of Windgrace as well.
Yeah, Soul of Windgrace, just chilling. I guess Soul of Windgrace, cool with Saga. I will say that, but
yeah,
not necessarily something I want to do.
Yeah, well, I would rather do this than like non-Saga Jund. I'll say that. I don't want to do either, but I would rather do this.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially with the Soul of Windgrace in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, Malix. Another pretty low to the ground, Indomitable Creativity deck, 4 Spell Pierce, 4 Lightning Bolt. This one has 2 Change the Equations main deck, also 2 copies of Big Score main deck. This is fine to me. Maybe getting a little bit more back into the nonsense than I would appreciate, I guess, but that's fine.
I think there's a lot of branching Big Score, Chandra combo decks, and I think we're only starting to see the tip of the iceberg as far as they go.
I'll take your word for it. All right. Okay. Serialed Rakdos Scam, nothing fancy?
No, nothing fancy.
Cool. Micrograms, Charbelcher, but this one has Serum Powder. I don't think the other one had it, and this one has 4 copies of Reckless Handling.
Okay. We all have Serum Powder nowadays with the London Mulligan, but yeah, take an extra one. Why not?
Yeah. Alexander Flores, Mono Green Tron. This one is a little spicier, a lot more one-ofs, random Noxious Revival, type of stuff.
Okay. I feel like I've done that before. I don't remember for what scenario, but I do feel like I've played Noxious Revival in my Tron deck before.
I can't think of a situation where I'd want to do that.
I wish I could tell you what I did it for. I really don't know.
I don't know. Live your life.
I'm just Googling myself plus Tron real quick, seeing if anything comes up.
While you do that, I'll talk about the next deck. Angled
Thanks,
Loofah.
appreciate it.
Angled Loofah, Lantern.
I'm still looking at myself.
Renin 6. 2 Karn the Great Creators. This is like a Jund one. I really don't like Renin 6 alongside 4 Ensnaring Bridge, you know? I don't like that.
Bit of a nombo.
I mean, you don't have to use it, right? But I feel like there are going to be situations where you do use it and then you try and establish a bridge lock or you draw the bridge or something. And it's like, oh, well, this is not great. So I don't know. This is weird. I do think that this deck is probably pretty underrated. Definitely another one of those decks that would get a significant boost from Mox Opal, but is maybe
this is one that I don't think people would be very happy about.
Yeah,
boost.
maybe a little too slow without it.
Yeah, I think so. I had Gutshot in the one Tron deck I found, but not Noxious Revival.
No, Gutshot is legit though.
Yeah, I also had an Azur's Gateway though, so don't listen to what I said because man, that card fucking bad.
That's weird. I guess you do have a spread of mana values in your deck, but
yeah, that's not a good idea.
Mateus F34. Is it Murktide? Wow, we're like just at basically the bottom of this, and it's like, oh yeah, Murktide's a deck that exists. I forgot about that.
It took us a while to get there, but there it is.
Cool. Fantasy 13. Blue black control. 4 Snapcaster Mage. 2 Shark Typhoon, 2 Dress Down, 2 Explosives, 2 Narset Parter Veils, 5 discard spells, Drown in the Lock, counter spell, 3 Archmage's Charm, 3 Fatal Push, 2 Hieroglyphic Illumination. Kind of weird, but then you see that there's also like 2 copies of Shieldred the Apocalypse, so maybe having additional cantrippy type of stuff is like not that bad. Lands have 3 Creeping Tar Pits. Hell yeah, brother. I'm in. Couple Field of Ruins.
This is not a good idea.
Castle Vantress, I'm back out. But clunky.
I've just done this
deck.
So many times, and I understand why you want this to be good. I also want this to be good. Shieldred would have to do some incredible heavy lifting to actually make this archetype good, because I've played with all these cards before, and I know that this does not work, and I don't think Shieldred is the solution. Even Shadow of Doubt, like I am one of the biggest Shadow of Doubt fans in the entire world. Like I have just put it in far too many decks, and it doesn't work.
I've been burned. I was a Shadow of Doubt enjoyer, and now I'm just a Shadow of Doubt hater.
I understand.
Why are there 2 Woe Striders in the sideboard?
I don't know.
Answer me that.
Just looking at that, I can't.
That was the one where I was like, "What the hell? I'm missing something."
I don't have an answer for you.
Cool. Gristle SRAM is the next username, and I think that gives off some vibes. You know.
Yeah, it's then what is about to happen next makes perfect sense. I think.
8 Emrakuls. Promised End, Eon's Torn, 4 Titanoth Rex, 4 Through the Breach, 4 Calibrated Blast, 3 Throes of Chaos, 1 Crime Punishment, 36 land.
Cool. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Just what are you getting out of this league though? Like when you sit down to play this,
it looks like a mountain of Moto riches based on the 5-0.
I guess so. Yeah, maybe if your goal is to just extract as much value as possible, this allows you to do so while you're watching anime in the background.
Can you believe there was a time that I played Moto while not multitasking?
Yeah, I can believe that. I mean, if I were to Moto, I would do it while not multitasking. The way I play Magic is I get very deep into it, and I use it to shut out everything around me. I don't multitask when I Magic.
Yeah, I used to be able to do that. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, Magic is one of the few things where like I can do that, which is why it has always been so valuable to me. I think the truth is I probably can't do it to the same extent anymore, which is why I just don't play all that much. If it did still have that effect on me, I would probably play a lot more.
Okay. For Desert in the mana base, suck it, Ragavan.
Yeah, got him.
Got him. Original Twan. Mono black. 8 Field of Ruins. I don't know, Relics and Karns and Night's Whispers and Invoke Despairs. This one is fairly tempered in its approach. A lot of like 4-ofs, a lot of consistency. So I do appreciate
waiting
that.
for the waste knots to show up. I thought we were flashing back to last week's cast.
Oh no, this is just Urborg Coffers.
Okay.
I don't know. It's fine. I feel like it before there throughout modern's history, there have been various things where it's like, well, if you join a league, you're definitely going to play against one copy of like this deck.
Tron, it felt like for the longest time.
Yeah, and now it's like, yeah, mono black offers. Like you're like, it doesn't matter if it hasn't shown up in a 5-0 in months or whatever.
It's still there.
Yeah. Well, we got Vanilla James with another Tron deck, so that's the third Tron deck in this league, maybe making a resurgence. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Vanilla Tron list.
Sleeping Snow Runt. Much love. Pokemon. Grazer Rot Farm. Time of Need in Yawgmoth. I don't know if I'm on board with Time of Need, but I do like the Grazer Rot Farm shenanigans.
Yeah, maybe that's just a committed thing now. And I don't know. Do you get opened up to Time of Need lines because you're using Grazer Rot Farm? My instinct is no, but
I mean, you have more consistent mana.
At least they're not doing anything too silly with it, right? Like it's just Hapatra's there, 4 Yawgmoths, and then 1 Shieldred.
Yeah, the Shieldred is like the new thing or whatever. But like, yeah, if you find that, you know, with like your Grazers and or if you're playing like even the Noble Hierarch version, that like Eldritch Evolution isn't necessarily online for you and you just need all your cards to be able to find Yawgmoth consistently, then sure, like Time of Need, okay, whatever. That's fine.
Yep.
Stefano _O, blue white control, 4 change the equation. Other than that, another like measured, tempered approach, no Ren 6 splashing nonsense. 4 Shark Typhoon. Cool.
A lot of love for change the equation. I get it.
Yeah, it's not bad. Well, I guess I don't know how many like 2-mana counterspells do you actually need, but whatever. I've more love for it in something like Pioneer, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
But whatever. Katabami 2, Rhinos, no Nissa, 3 copies of Murktide Regent, which is solid. It's decent. I don't mind that.
I'm not going to say anything about stock Rhinos because they'll come for me.
They will. Chris MTG 77, Amulet, 1 Altered Ego. Rest of it pretty normal.
Yep, pretty stock beyond that. I've seen the Altered Ego before. I think it's okay.
Little Police Boy, Blue Black Mill, pretty normal.
Yeah, that's cop behavior right there.
Yep. Counterspell in the deck too. 2 counterspells.
Classic cop behavior.
Country Time Crusher, Lotus Field, Underworld Breach, Wishclaw Talisman to set it up. This deck is like a card off, you know?
Let's get going with these twiddles, baby. I'm all about twiddle taking over.
Yeah, what's your beta twiddle situation?
I have them. That is the extent of the situation. I also have alphas. So just need them to keep getting more popular.
So do you have a set of each, or is it like a mix in the set?
I have a set of each, yes.
Okay. And what is the current retail value?
Well, let's go to our friends at StarCityGames.com and search for twiddle.
I don't know if Star City is the best way to gauge price on that, but whatever. All right.
Beta at 30. Disappointing.
That's not good.
No.
That's lower than I thought.
May have paid more than that. Alpha at 100.
Okay.
Heavily played. On sale for 20% off at 43. So if you would also like to pick up some alpha twiddles, they're out there.
If you want to join Brian on his stonks excursion.
The only thing is you have to commit to never selling and never taking any profit. That's how we invest around here.
Yeah, smart. Very smart.
No, I may do some selling soon. I'm thinking of purchasing a house in New Zealand. So I feel like I need some dollars.
Maybe this is not the time or the place to have this discussion, but like, what are you going to do with your house? And
I'm going to keep that house as well.
okay, and then
I'm gonna have a couple houses.
What is going to happen in the time that you're not there?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna let my parents live in it.
Okay,
because they've picked up like a retirement home down in Florida, but they don't really have anywhere when they're not in that house, and they don't like it when it's hot down there, so they can just come stay at my house.
retire to Florida, but don't like it when it's hot there.
Yeah, they want to be there in like the winter time. Which, if you knew where my parents' house was, you would understand. It is on the back of a mountain that gets no sun.
Yeah,
And they just get like feet of snow all winter long, and they like can't care for the house anymore. So they needed something to escape that. But they don't want to sit in like 100 degrees and humid.
Yeah, I would think that maybe you would choose more of like a middle ground instead of Florida, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, that was mostly an economic consideration.
Yeah,
where it was
I could see that.
Quite cheap.
All right, Menino Nay, Living End, ebbs and flows, but I generally think that this deck is underrated, and people could probably benefit from adding this to their range, you know, getting like some reps in with this.
I would agree with that statement.
All right, Ornate Puzzles, Gruul, Arbor Elf, Utopia Sprawl. I keep working on these decks. Not so much.
I've tried.
Not so much recently. Yeah, but
there's been points in the past where I was like a pretty big champion of this style of deck, and I don't feel that way anymore.
It's not bad, but it definitely isn't as enticing as it once was. I think that there are just a lot of better things that you can do, even if you're looking to do similar stuff to this.
It's weird to say, but I actually think it was best when it was like a pillage Stone Rain deck. Like when that was the path it was going down. It like basically at least it was really good at one thing.
Yeah.
And it just like identified when that thing was good in the format, and it did it. And that was fine. Now it's just like a mixture of cards, and none of them are really all that impressive.
Yeah, the problem to me is I look at the combination of cards here where it's like you got some mana acceleration, you have some value planeswalkers, you have pitch elementals that are all pretty good. Even in case of playing things like Ragavan, this deck has one copy, but I've seen other versions have that card in higher numbers. It's just like this honestly just looks like kind of a bad Omnath deck, you know? Like if you wanted the sort of like removal, planeswalkers, disruption, card advantage stuff, like you could just get that in Omnath in a much more consistent, like better shell. So that was sort of where this archetype ran afoul for me. So I agree with you. It's like if you're really leaning into like the Blood Moon LD package or whatever, then okay, yeah, that's a thing that you should be sort of hyper focusing in on, and not really just doing this value stuff in Gruul of all places.
A good like rule of thumb when you're choosing your modern deck is ask yourself the question, does this have a reason to exist? This deck has no reason to exist whatsoever.
Yeah, but you know that maybe 70% of the modern audience just skips that step entirely, and that's sort of the beauty of the format.
I understand that. I'm trying to let people take their next step as a player, right? This is how you become someone who isn't routinely registering Gruul into leagues and just being like, where have I gone wrong with my life?
Well, you don't see they don't post the 05 deck list or whatever, unfortunately. I feel like I would have a field.
Man, I would love to do that.
Have a field day with that.
So much better.
Can you imagine going through like the 05 deck dump or whatever? That would be an incredible episode. But yeah,
maybe like we could convince them to do it for like an April Fool's list.
That would be so awesome.
I would be so excited for that.
Just do the highlights of like the last year or something.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. But yeah, it's like you see this and you're like, oh yeah, you're just like throwing a money away, and it's like, well, are they? Like, I don't know. How many leagues did they join? Maybe this is the only time that they played Gruul, and they just cashed in. You know, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say without seeing the other leagues that they played in.
This is the type of shit my brother does. Like, he'll just sit there and play garbage leagues with the worst decks possible all day.
Well, is he playing Modern? Because we don't see J Money show up all that often.
No, he plays mostly Pioneer.
Okay.
Although we don't see him much there either. He doesn't 5-0 a lot.
I wasn't gonna say anything. It's all right. Comic Book Day, more amulets, more stock, more awesome.
Yep.
Cool. Zeriz. Last deck. Rakdos Scam, one Invasion of Asgul.
No notes. Pretty simple. There was some good spice along the way, though. We kind of cooled off a bit on the end there,
There's
but
a
I
lot
enjoyed
of
the
good
early
stuff though,
parts.
right?
Yeah, the early parts of this deck dump were quite good.
That's why we do the one from 5 days ago instead of like the most recent one or like the challenges. And there's
Yeah, you gotta filter a little bit.
Yeah, and this was the one where I was like, I remember distinctly like 3 decks I wanted to talk about. It ended up being like 8 or so, where I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is rad. This kicks ass.
Yeah, pretty good deck dump.
And
Solid 7 out of 10, I would say.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, it's not a 10 out of 10.
It's not a 10 out of 10, but it's like it's at least an 8 for me. Come on, man, it was good.
I don't know. I think like there has to just be like sweeping changes format wide, and a lot of this stuff is the same.
Okay, yeah, we're probably looking for different things, I guess.
Maybe
I wasn't looking for Modern to change as a whole, especially considering that sort of seemed impossible. So instead, I'm looking for people to utilize the tools at their disposal to do something cool.
Okay. Yeah, we saw a lot of that.
Yeah. And that's it. That's why I'm just like, yeah, banger league, pretty good. And I mean, next Pro Tour is Modern, so that's cool too. That may just like ruin all of that,
Hopefully.
Well,
Hopefully.
Depending on what your goals are. Yeah. If you're like,
that's the way Modern Pro Tours have always worked, right? It's just like they kind of like reset the expectations and sort of ruin everything.
Yeah, it does. And if you're looking for the format to be miserable, that sucks. If you're looking for that Pro Tour and that newfound stability in the format, I guess, to lead to like bannings or something, then I think that's like a fine goal, but less likely to happen. It's more like
I don't want it to be miserable. I want it to be realistic. I think that's what I am searching for. Like I want the actual rules of engagement to be real.
I think the realistic version is that it becomes miserable and they make no changes.
That is possible.
Which is the unfortunate part. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if this is actually like a good thing. I kind of like it when it is just
Wild West.
Yeah, Wild West. Enjoy your nonsense. Enjoy the mono black coffers mid boss of your Modern league every time.
Yep.
I don't know. I am looking forward to like maybe delving into Modern a little bit deeper. Pioneer is it's getting better. It's not as terrible as it once was. I'm not as down on it, so it's not that bad. I'm looking forward to the results of like the RCs and stuff. But if we get to spend like a season talking about Modern, I'd be pretty happy.
I'm sure we will get our chance. And in the meantime, though, I suspect we go to the RC next week and check in there. Of course, there could just be random nonsense news that completely derails us. Always a good possibility.
Yeah, it's just like before the top 4 starts, we're announcing that we're killing Pioneer. Actually, we decided this is a good time, a good part of the broadcast to do that. So
also, all sets are Universes Beyond from this point
forward. Get ready for Transformers year or whatever.
But we're bringing back Block Constructed just for Transformers.
Listen, on the aggregate, that doesn't sound that bad. Honestly.
I would probably take it.
Honestly.
I would play the Transformers format. Yeah.
Oh man, they still make the Transformers TCG? I played that for a little bit.
No, I think that's dead.
Okay. Yeah. What a shame. What a shame. All right, that's it. That's all I got. Anything else?
Nope. Game.
Good luck.